A typical rush hour for thousands of commuters.
Early in the morning, the congestion is terrible, really difficult to get on a train. If you're lucky, you can stand, but you're not arriving at work in the best of condition.
I will 90% certain be able to get a seat, but that's travelling at those times of the day, which is off-peak, I suppose. So I can imagine if it was rush hour, if it was 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, 5, 6 o'clock at night, who knows?
They've got the country in so much debt, but they just have to cut back on costs, and it's simple as that. It's the reality of the world.
I think it'd be better if they invested in it because it can get really crowded. It's not always pleasant as well, especially out with the heat as well. It puts you off travelling.
It's that level of congestion that the government promised to address 18 months ago, and it's people here in Bolton who endure some of the worst overcrowding who'd have been some of those to benefit most. At the time, we heard passenger numbers were up 40% in 10 years. £10 billion of extra investment was being promised. Across the country, 1,300 new carriages were on the way. Here, there'd be 180 offered to Northern Trains, but that's now been cut to 106.
I think the initial reaction was one of shock, and then I've got to say the shock developed rather into anger. I would say to any government minister, well, go and talk to our commuters, particularly those who come from Bolton, experience the misery every morning of overcrowded trains. The capacity issue is a serious problem. Actually getting onto trains is a problem at the peak hour time. So these are the people who are really going to suffer from this really quite appalling announcement.
It's not very surprising. The government announced this morning that the economy shrank by far larger than was expected. It's decreased by 2.4% in the first quarter of the year. So the government's got less tax revenue coming in. It's therefore got to cut its costs as well, because it can't keep on borrowing from China, which is what it's currently doing to fund the deficit.
Just give us an idea, how big a black hole is it the government's got to plug here?
Nobody knows. I mean, that's the frightening thing, James, is that every day the figures seem to change in terms of the economy. It seems to be shrinking further and further into the red. So the government is playing guessing games all the time, and it's literally pick a number.
Transport bosses are promising to fight on, but if the government insists it doesn't have the cash, their campaign may just hit the buffers. James Webster, Channel M News.